Hello, EKN Nation. It's EKN Debrief time, episode number 147, Thursday, April the 3rd, 2025. The event that we are going to dive into today, the opening round of the 2025 Superkarts USA Pro Tour, the WinterNationals at Speed Sports Racing Park down in New Caney, Texas. Hello, friends. My name is Rob Howden. David Cole joining me. We, of course, were trackside throughout the entire weekend at the WinterNationals down at Speed Sports. Fantastic weekend. We'll dive into this show. Lots to talk about, lots to unpack with some crazy racing down there. And we'll get underway by presenting this weekend's presenting sponsor, the show's presenting sponsor, Parolin USA. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products. The brand is rich in history and success, dating back to the early 1990s throughout Europe. Today, Parolin is among the winningest brands in the USA and around the world. Carters can head to ParolinUSA.com and the website where the entire chassis line of parts are available to you, with shipping across North America within 48 hours. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. All right, David Cole, we're back a little later for the show here on a Thursday, but great way to start off the Superkarts USA Pro Tour. The event, of course, being held March 28th to 30th at Speed Sports, the opening two rounds of the six-round championship. Pretty good weekend, all told.
Yeah, very good weekend. A historic weekend, the largest ever for the Superkarts USA Pro Tour. So biggest WinterNationals, biggest Pro Tour event, biggest event ever at the Speed Sports Racing Park in New Caney, Texas. Opening up this year's championship program, which will be 6-round program for 7 of the categories, and the opening round for the Pro Show, including the Pro Shifter division. Again, starting the 16th season of this championship, which began back in 2010. And we talked about in the Outlap, we were there in Sonoma on an April weekend. I think just under 100, maybe, was it? Or just
102.
over 102. So to go from 102 to 305 in 16 years is just massive. And karting is on the downward, right?
Supposedly. Right. I know the stability we have right now, the record numbers we're getting nationally, some of the big regional programs. Karting's fantastic right now. I think it's in a great place for sure. David, let's look at weather. When we kind of rolled in there was rain on Thursday. We got to the track on Friday morning, and actually the majority of the day on Friday was nice until, of course, that monsoon essentially hit Friday afternoon. That left a wet track, but a drying track and a changing track all day through Saturday. It was humid all weekend long, not surprising, but Saturday and Sunday were dry. Yeah,
the rain we thought was going to hit all day Friday. We really did. And then it ended up the last 2 sessions on the final practice round. I think it was Mini Swift and X30 Pro or Pro X30. Those are the only 2 categories hit by rain on the day. Again, it started a little bit damp, so it took a little bit of drying, but there was that threat of rain all day on Friday, and it just didn't come until the end finally. And then, just humid and kind of disgusting on Saturday and Sunday for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere who aren't used to it. But there's so much of that moisture. Again, all that monsoon that did come through Friday for about, an hour, a lot of rain, and there's nowhere for the water to go. It just kind of sits there. And so we saw a lot of times where drivers go off the racetrack, big splash of puddle, because all that water, all that rain is just sitting there on top of the ground with nowhere to go. So if there's only one downside to the facility there's just nowhere for any of that water to go.
Well, it's specifically designed to do the best it can with that water. Obviously, it's one of the most humid places in the country, Houston, and they do get quite a bit of rain. It was, it even plagued it when they were first building the track because there was so much rain that season that when they were trying to build, they really couldn't get even the bulldozers and everything to move it around. But if you look at that racetrack, unlike other facilities, they built swales in, like it's all designed to run the water into certain places, right? So they've done their best they could to deal with it. And really, there wasn't a lot of standing water on the racetrack, David. But like you said, if you do go off, you're probably stuck with. A number of drivers went through those swales, which were like little rivers.
Yeah, that's a great about Speed Sports. Yes, it's very tight confines, and they do have the water rushing down, essentially providing like a gully for all the water to kind of go into, except for on the start line, or not start line, but the front stretch, because there was that one puddle there, right at the turn 1. Just before turn 1, it just sat there all day Saturday. I think finally Sunday there was very little reminiscence of a water puddle. But like that's the only spot where I could see like maybe a downward gully again should have been built to kind of remove that water away from that area, again back into the grass area. But yeah, it was strange. Like there was weepers too a little bit, because again there's just nowhere. It's like Homestead. Yeah. There's just nowhere for the water to go.
Well, you're essentially at where I'm not sure exactly what it is, but you're essentially at what do you call it? Sea level, right? Because Houston's right there on the coast. So, anyways, the bottom line is we had a humid but dry Saturday and Sunday. The track, because of the sheer velocity of the rain on Friday, really cleaned off all the rubber that was on the track. So it was a very very loose track, slippery track at the very start on Saturday during warm up, and it really changed throughout the day, which I think was kind of interesting, the way that it kind of played to that throughout Saturday. David, you mentioned the sheer numbers on the weekend at the WinterNationals, the biggest ever Pro Tour race, 305 entries. Let's jump into the numbers to end this first segment here. Again, three of the categories, David, we rolled in, or was it four? The three of them sell. It was three that sold out, right? Junior and both KA sold out. In the end, we only had the full 46 in both X30 Junior and KA 100 Senior. I know we talked about 317 entries. There were some cancellations. They end up with 305, but still plus 40 in five of the categories.
Well, it was 306 when we left on Thursday. There was one cancellation, and I assume that's the one in KA 100 Junior to get 45. Right. So because we had 46 in the three categories, so both KAs and X30 Junior going into the weekend. So that was a cancellation, I believe, looking back at our numbers. But again, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the categories over the 40 mark is just outstanding, including the 43 drivers that battled in the headline Pro Shifter division.
Amazing. How about 75 cadet carts total? 31 in the Micro Swift class, 44 in Mini Swift. So a great look there at the future of Superkarts USA Pro Tour racing. 46, as we talked about. Master Shifter had 12, so not a 20 or a 25 you'd hope for, maybe for a big field, but for Master Shifter drivers, still a dozen going head-to-head throughout that race. It was some awesome racing, I'll say that. Pro X30, good numbers there as well, David. Let's get a chance to talk about 38 in Pro X30. This class has been up and down over the last couple of years, but they definitely showed up for the opening round of the Pro Tour.
Yeah, there was the usual suspects that you expect to see in the category. Again, we've seen a number of drivers kind of go up, to car racing or doing coaching or this and that. And again, you got a number of drivers that are either mid-pack and KA that are trying their hand at X30 as well, or a couple of the junior drivers. Not too many of the junior drivers were there this weekend, but a couple that moved up from the junior ranks. So it's a mix. It's really hard. I think that's a little bit harder now to pinpoint than Pro Shifter, because that's the thing with Pro Shifter. Everybody's on the KZ platform. We know that moving forward. So it's on the same standards as the rest of the world. Where Pro X30, you're kind of still trying to figure out where, how stable is that going to be? Yeah. What are we going to get at the Spring Nationals and the Summer Nationals? I would assume Summer Nationals be a similar number, where again, it's the summertime, it's Newcastle, you're going to get that. It's the Spring Nationals. I'm kind of wondering where that's going to be, but there are a lot of drivers that are in there to better themselves and get prepared and run the full season for sure.
That's what you're here for, right? It's obviously one of the primary Pro X30 categories in the country. USPKS one as well, obviously. And so, indeed, the bottom line is that the guys still want to run. They still want to be part of the program. So we'll have 38, as we said, at the Winter Nats. Just David's talking about Spring Nats. We'll see what we end up with there as well. Before we go to the commercial break, Dave, let's just, I want to touch on Pro Shifter again. How cool it was. 43 drivers in Pro Shifter. To see that field roll up to the start. Your start line video you did when they came up for the main, and you got the shot of them from front to back. They were all gritting up. I looked yesterday, and I think we had over 15,000 views on that video or something like that. It's just, how long has it been since you've had to walk that far on a Pro Tour race, right? Or ever, to get 43 drivers in Pro Shifter?
Yeah, never, because we've never had this before. I did it at the Supernats where I think they started at least 46, maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, we did this at Newcastle. If you remember, Tom Kutcher was the guy going down the middle. That was a fun video to try and do a couple times, and he got a little bit tired because you can't do it the standard way. And you remember the old way of doing it where you stopped everybody.
Yep.
You threw two to the line, and then you threw the next two to the line. Well, all these guys, they don't want to be on the dirty side for very long, so they all roll up on the racing line and then move over into the dirty side of the grid. So it's not the video I was hoping for, but yeah, it's when you got that many, that's the only way you can do it is on the side, not through the middle.
Still a fantastic video. I love it. Great stuff. All right, let's take our first break. We get back. Let's dive into the Paddock Pass, folks. We're underway. Our debrief of the opening round of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour for 2025. The WinterNationals continues after this break. What brand is known around the world for its innovation and success? It is Superkarts. The Sodi brand returned in full force during the 2023 season thanks to the new exclusive importer, the Karting Distribution, led by industry veteran Terry Germanovich. The French manufacturer Superkarts is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. The Sodi Racing chassis line offers product in classes from mini karts to KZ, all based on years of development and championship seasons around the world. Sodi Racing USA has expanded its dealer network over the last year, bringing the Sodi brand to several local clubs and regional programs. The Sodi Racing USA by PK Sports is the official race team, producing many victories in different levels across the board. And the new Pro Race Academy is designed to cater to the next generation of motor racing, helping boys and girls aiming to make their mark. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about Superkart chassis or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Superkart, the world leader in the karting industry. Made in the USA. It's not just a statement, it's the mission at Factory Karts of America. Led by four-time Supernats champion Billy Musgrave, Factory Karts manufactures their frames completely in-house at the Riverside, California facility. Built and designed from the ground up specifically for the American karting market, Factory Karts brings new innovations and solutions that are long overdue. Factory Karts bring together the highest quality materials to produce a high-performance, long-lasting kart that has been designed and perfected from 3 years of development, with a focus for a big push across North America in 2023. No other karting manufacturer stands behind its product like Factory Karts does, providing a 2-year warranty on all their frames. Do you remember when American made meant innovative, original, stronger, faster, and just plain better? Well, American made is back. Contact Factory Karts today to join the American made movement. Learn more by visiting factorykarts.com or email Billy anytime at info@factorykarts.com. Back at it here on the debrief, episode 147. Myself, Rob Howden, alongside David Cole, diving into the race report here for the Superkarts USA Pro Tour WinterNationals, the opening round of their national program. We'll dive now into the Paddock Pass, presented by DID Chain. Since 1933, DID has been designing and manufacturing high-quality chains that are chosen and utilized by the world's best power sport athletes and is the winningest chain brand in the industry. From the hairpin turns of MotoGP to the local circle track and everywhere in between, DID has a chain offering for all levels of power sports that are designed to outlast and outperform the competition. With over 90 years of experience, stay driven with DID. So, David, for the Paddock Pass, obviously you presented the Paddock Insider throughout the day on Friday. First and foremost, we touched on it already before the break, the largest ever event on the Pro Tour in 15 years.
Into the 16th year. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're into the 16th year.
Yeah.
So, again, like we said in the opening segment, the largest ever in the Pro Tour, largest ever at Speed Sports. We saw some of the largest fields ever in certain categories. I don't recall a Pro Tour ever having 45 or 46 X30 junior drivers. So, it was just big. It was just massive. Everything in Texas, I guess, is big, and and that's that was kind of the sentiment of the weekend for sure. And it's a unique part of being part of it. We've seen nearly every single Pro Tour event since it started, and it's crazy. We talk about it all the time, Rob, how the staff has exploded in terms of members and all the things they do. Everybody's assigned tasks. They take care of it. Boom, boom, boom. They do their thing. And you see just how massive the paddock has become on the Pro Tour. It's just, it's great to see.
Yeah, I love it. Obviously, some big news in terms of starting the season off. A little bit surprising to a certain extent, but a lot of drivers moving teams after the Winter Series, and we'll talk a little bit about that. First and foremost, though, Danny Formal, who we've been following for many years, multi-time winner at the Supernationals, been one of the top drivers in the sport for almost a couple of decades now. Obviously, he's working his way into the sports car world and is finding lots of success there. But back at it here for the Pro Tour, at least the opening round. We'll see how many other events he's able to make. But Formal making his debut with GFC.
Yeah, it was something that we knew about a couple months ago. In more of a, not just him being there, but also part of the industry as well too, because that's one thing that GFC karting is really looking at is hitting the international market. They've gone over to Asia, they've hit that. Yeah. And now they're looking at Central America, and that's where Formal's from, in Costa Rica. And there's a booming surge in karting right now, where their racetrack there in Costa Rica is welcoming over 100 drivers for each club race. I talked to Danny about it. He said, "Man, it's great to see the racetrack's only been there for just under 2 years." So karting really hasn't been a focal point in terms of motorsports for that country. And with this new racetrack and the Formal family, obviously Danny's success helps bring a little bit of attention to that. Sure. And so now this is kind of an industry side of things, where the Formal family is bringing the GFC karting brand to Costa Rica. And it's great to see the sport growing at the international level, and certainly places where we don't know about. We've talked about that all the time. We're getting a lot of drivers from the Caribbean that we had no idea some of these countries even existed or around, and so now you're starting to see it growing around the world in places that you just weren't expecting it to.
You go from a driver like Danny Formal, who obviously is extremely well-known, respected, top driver in the sport, making that debut with GFC. But then we go a little deeper and a little younger into the field. The kid that was the dominant micro driver last year, Zane Burgess, who had his program working with Superkarts. He has now moved, David, over to Speed Concepts Racing. He was with a different tent in Texas.
Yeah, a different atmosphere for the Burgess family. They felt... they wanted to reconnect with driver, coach, and mechanic that were previously with Sodi Racing USA that weren't there anymore. This was kind of the good combination, and Speed Concepts Racing was a good location to do that. And so that was kind of the focal point of the move. Again, obviously driving under the Andretti Global Driver Development Program. There's a lot of eyes on him everywhere he goes. Yeah. But there's also a lot of planning on it as well, too. And so, with Zane being so young, he's got a lot of years of karting still ahead of him. Whether it be here in the United States or what he might do over in Europe. Obviously already been over there racing at Champions of the Future Academy program. So going to be continuing to do that while still racing here at the Superkarts USA Pro Tour and other programs and championships in the U.S.
Let's move over to Velocity Racing. David, new faces there as well for the start of the Pro Tour season.
Yeah, didn't get a chance to put that in the Paddock Insider, but thought we'd add this to the show. Obviously, the pro shifter driver, Adrian Renadin, joining the team for what I believe they said was the full Pro Tour. I think they're going to do. He was one of those drivers. It was great to kind of watch him progress. Obviously was right there in qualifying and in the mix. Unfortunately, a mechanical issue at the start of the final. I believe it was a brake issue where it just went away. So he pulled off and unfortunately not able to make a single lap there. But it was good to kind of see his progression throughout the week, being a factor all week long or all weekend. But two mini drivers joining the tent. One of them, Santiago Orioli and Danny O'Gara, both racing under the MPG Motorsports banner for the last essentially 2 years. We've seen O'Gara, though, bounce around to different karts here and there. He's raced Top Kart. He's raced the Kart Republic. I talked to them. They were just kind of trying something out. MPG Motorsports not traveling to all events. They thought they'd try joining Velocity for the weekend and get an idea. Certainly, they're not going to be at the Spring Nationals because there's other events going on Memorial Day weekend that are in the Indianapolis area. So that might tie up the O'Gara family a little bit during that weekend. But they're certainly looking at obviously doing the Summer Nationals again. But again, it was just kind of maybe possibly just a one-off to kind of see what the kart does, obviously adjusting to how the Sodi kart drives from the other brands. And didn't get a chance to speak with Orioli, but we'll see kind of what his future is with either Velocity or MPG still.
Indeed. Yeah, let's wrap this up, this segment here with the Paddock Pass, brought to you by DID Racing. With a look at the fact that, David, all the top 10 in Pro Shifter back for 2025. So that whole Circle of Champions program, they really stepped that up in a big way for 2024 into 2025. All those drivers in the top 10 in points getting the support to be able to come back in the next year. And it paid off with a lot of obviously the top drivers from last year being back.
Yeah, I think that's that was a big point of why we had 43 drivers. You get all 10 of those drivers back. You add 33 more in. That helps build, again, numbers breed numbers, as you continue to say. Mm-hmm. And I think that certainly helps. We only saw 5 of the top 10 in Pro X30, which has the same prize package for the top 10 in the championship this year, going to be back for 2026. So they have the full season that they can race under their belts. But again, a lot of different planning, different schedules. The shifter drivers are a little bit different than kind of the progression of the X30 guys as they're trying to move up into the car ranks.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of guys come out of the shifter kart ranks into the open wheel car racing world, maybe sports cars, but a lot of times the drivers will stay in shifters, as we know, right? A lot of these guys are in their early to mid 20s running in the pro shifter category. The bottom line is that program SCUSA put together brought all 10 drivers back. That made sure you had a lot of names everybody knew. And I think, David, looking forward to 2026, you're going to have that battle for that final spot, that 10th position, right? They're going to fight all the way to the end of the Summer Nationals to see who gets to be part of that program and have their entries and everything paid for 2026. It's one of the things I like about it, other than just, the drivers going for the championship. You're still scrapping to try to get yourself into the top 10.
Certainly, that was kind of a story. We'll touch a little bit on it, but Gavin Bailiff finished 11th last year, so missed out by just a few points on getting a full year under his belt. So this year he's certainly trying to put himself into that role. So it's we'll talk a little bit more about that.
I'll just wrap it up. I remember that this is kind of just brought that in my mind. Battling after that one last thing. Back in the Pro Tour in 2020, or I think it was 2020, SCUSA, it was a Pro Moto Tour back then. SCUSA used to give out 20 national number plates, right? You were the top 20. You got the national number plate for the next year. And that's when our boy Mark Miller was driving for our project kart, our Shifter Kart Illustrated project kart. And we were at Norman, Oklahoma for the World Finals. And Mark wanted that number 20 plate, right? Because he'd jumped right into S1. He wanted that plate. And actually broke his ribs. I think he had broke his ribs in practice. Something happened. He trying to make the main event to get enough laps to get the 20. We had like a plastic barrel around him, right? A pickle barrel or something around him, taped up to try to be able to handle it because the rib protector wasn't getting the job done. Wasn't able to. I don't think he was able to finish the race. He did most of the laps, but didn't finish the race. Just missed out on the number 20 plate. David, do you remember the driver that got the number 20 plate?
Oh man, I don't remember.
AJ Allmendinger.
That's who it was. I was thinking Michael McDowell, but
AJ Allmendinger was able to sneak in and grab that number plate against Mark. But the simple fact of trying to go after, we're talking about the guys trying to go after 10th. You mentioned that Gavin Bailiff just missed it, right? I think about Mark Miller trying to get that national number 20 after a badass season. So
old pickle barrel weekend.
The pickle barrel, yeah. And that boat, folks, that was back in the day when there was, just to throw this out there, a little history thing. There was an East Coast series, the Eastern Zone, and there was the West Zone. So there were, in Pro Shifter, there were 24 guys on the East and 24 guys on the West, and they all met at the World Finals in Oklahoma to cap it all off. And those were good times back then. They were, that's West Coast thought they were the best. East Coast thought they were the best. Bobby Wilson ended up coming away with the race win for Track Magic and Leading Edge Motorsports. It was, those were good days for sure. All right, we're done. Let's wrap up the Paddock Pass. When we get back after this next break, time to dive into the race report. There's a new hot button name in American safety equipment, Stilo USA. Every product with Stilo is focused on safety, comfort, and function. Stilo USA is happy to provide you with the proper safety apparel to keep you protected on the track, and their karting lineup is second to none. New to the product lineup is the Stilo Carbon CMR karting helmet. Designed to revolutionize your karting experience, this carbon fiber crafted helmet is among the lightest on the market, without compromising on safety. The Stilo ST5 KRT karting helmet is manufactured using a lightweight and extremely strong composite material. The KRT provides an excellent fit and comfort level due to its dual density interior foam lining, and it's equipped with a symmetrical visor that offers excellent vision and an effortless central visor locking system. The Stilo ST5 CMR standard was developed jointly by the FIA Institute and Snell Memorial Foundation to ensure safer and lighter weight helmets for younger karters. Drivers rave about the superior comfort levels, lightweight construction, and the unparalleled field of vision that is perfect for the youth helmet line. Stilo didn't stop with their helmets either. The newly developed Carbon Curva rib protector is unlike any other on the market, with a form-fitting solution to offer superior protection. The Carbon Curva 8870 version is FIA homologated and includes a chest protector. Head to StiloHelmets.com to review these products and many more to keep you safe on the track. Stilo, any competition, one helmet. CRG is one of the most iconic brands in karting, and we're primed and ready for the 2022 season with new material and a never-ending focus on winning. CRG Nordam is the North American distributor for all CRG products. Based outside of Houston, Texas, CRG Nordam supports CRG dealers across the continent, reaching every corner of North America. The CRG KT5 is our new chassis for tag and shifter racing, and it's been designed specifically for the US market. The KT5 features 30mm construction with a 32mm front loop to increase front grip. CRG's new VEN 13 brake system is cutting-edge technology, with a master cylinder that allows for pressure regulation within the system. Drivers can customize brake pressure to their own requirements to improve feel and to avoid brake lockup. The kart is finished with new KG 507-508 bodywork that has refined aerodynamics and reduced weight. For cadet drivers, the 2022 CRG Black Mirror is already logging positive results to start the new season. This chassis will be making big waves in 2022. Longtime CRG drivers will be happy to know that the CRG Road Rebel, the standard in quality and performance, is still available. With four-cycle racing enjoying consistent growth in North America, CRG's FS4 chassis is the ideal choice for racers in Briggs & Stratton competition. From pure racing to karting entertainment, many tracks, both indoor and outdoor, have made the switch to the CRG Centurion rental kart line. 5 different models for both gas-powered or electric engines can fit any track's needs for a new rental kart fleet. CRG Nordam has a full inventory of rental karts available for new and existing facilities. For more information on the CRG product line, head to www.kartcrg.com, and to inquire about a North American dealer near you, please email us at info@kartcrg-nordam.com. Back at it here on the EKN Debrief, episode 147, as we are unpacking the Superkarts USA Pro Tour WinterNationals that happened last weekend at Speed Sports Racing Park, just outside of Houston. Time to dive now into the race report presented by Comet Kart Sales. History, success, family. These are the three words that describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation is located just outside Indianapolis and has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in their near 6 decades of business. Their brand new updated online store features everything you need, and they are continually adding parts to their product line. Make sure you head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. All right, David, jumping into the race report here. Of course, we'll look at the 2 pro categories to get things underway. We'll start with Pro Shifter, presented by PSL Karting. If you're new to our EKN debriefs, I throw out the headline, and then David starts filling in the information. Here is the headline for Pro Shifter. Bailiff secures career first in dramatic Pro Shifter main event.
The only category that is on the Pro Show for the Pro Tour in 2025 is Pro Shifter. And again, a unique format. They go through qualifying to open up the action on Saturday in 2 separate race groups, or 2 separate qualifying groups. So half the field in one and half the field in the other. And they take the top 6 from each and put them into the Super Pole session. Well, the top qualifiers in the 2 different groups, Adrian Renaudin and Gavin Bailiff. Gavin Bailiff with the overall fast time of 49.966 put him as a top driver. And Rob, you talked about this after the Super Pole session. They didn't send him out the proper way. Is that correct?
Well, so you know what normally happens, obviously, because you want to, just for the show, you want to build the excitement up, because the Super Pole, so it's 5-minute qualifying sessions for the groups. Super Pole is green, white, checker. So you're essentially rolling out there, you get your opening lap, 1 lap, then you got to nail the second lap. So ideally for the show, the fastest driver would have been Gavin Bailiff. He's the last guy to roll off. Because you want to build it up. You want, as they come across, to put that second lap in. The guy who was 12th in combined qualifying, he's the first one to go fast. You want it to keep getting better so that maybe the last guy across the line sets the fast time, and it's explosive excitement wrapping up the session. As they come up, Scusa made a little mistake in terms of gridding them up. They had all the fast guys up front, so we had the fastest guys roll out first onto the racetrack. Bailiff, Renaudin, whatever. They were the first guys that rolled out. Ironically, it wasn't one of those guys that ended up turning the fastest time. It was still unbelievably exciting because it was one of the guys at the very tail of the group, which is cool.
Yeah, and that ended up being Charlie Steins, the driver for Factory Fury GP karts, a 50.117. And if I recall correctly, they were on the same tires. So all they do is they adjust a little bit of air pressure and they roll them right back out after Master Shifter goes and hits the racetrack. So you could say that Steins had a kind of better setup for multiple laps in terms of qualifying. So, but again, still, it was Steins, Bailiff, and Kyle Wick that were the top 3 after the Super Pole session. And we talked a little bit about Danny Formal. He was kind of the surprise because he was the fastest driver on Friday, go into qualifying, and the speed wasn't there. He didn't even make the Super Pole. So that was kind of the big headline going into after qualifying was Formal not in the top 12 overall. So.
Just really cool for Charlie Steins too. Come on, that was it. To think about the fact that all these guys are battling it out with. You look at the EKN driver rankings, and for Charlie to be able to come out and lay that lap down, that was awesome. The smile he had in his face afterwards was obviously ear to ear. But the thing about Steins is he got a great launch off the line, David, in heat race number 1, led a majority of that heat race, that 10-lap heat race, until Kyle Wick decided he was going to make a move late.
Yeah, Wick kind of just played out the race and didn't force anything. Those two were able to get away. Wick made a move in the closing laps and was able to take over the top spot, score the win ahead of Steins, with Billy Musgrave sitting there in the 3rd spot. In the second heat, however, Wick, lap number 3, spun. I'm not exactly sure how this happened, but he came through the left kink heading into the final 180 corner, coming to the front stretch, and Wick just spun around and looped it right in front of the rest of the whole field while running in 4th. So he was dropped down the order massively with that spin, while up front it was Bailiff who was able to grab the whole shot from the outside and lead the entire distance for heat number 2 to score the race win there, ahead of Billy Musgrave and defending champion Matthias Morgado, who worked himself up from outside the top 5 into the top 3 in the second heat race. So they took the 2 heat races and combined points from those 2 races to make the pre-final grid, which saw Bailiff, Musgrave on the front row, Morgado and Steins in row 2, and then Jay Irwin, the Kiwi, in the 5th position. The pre-final, Musgrave was pretty handedly had it. This was Sunday morning. Their first racing session of the day, and it was a good run by Billy. Billy was pretty confident in the conditions that were there. It was kind of an overcast day to begin, and Musgrave drove away with Bailiff sitting there in second, with Jay Irwin in the 3rd spot. So that essentially left everything the same for the grid, because they took the heat race and pre-final points, combined them, and made up the grid for the main event with Bailiff and Musgrave on the front row. And it was those 2 drivers that were able to really race away from the rest of the field. A lot of jostling for 3rd behind them kind of allowed this gap, but they were certainly among 2 of the quickest drivers on the racetrack, with only 6 drivers in the main event. Again, all drivers on new tires. Only 6 drivers were able to get under that 50-second mark, and Bailiff and Musgrave were 2 of those. So they were able to get away. It was a good little duel. Musgrave made a pass. Bailiff came back. Musgrave took the spot again, and that kind of led up into the final lap where, defensive line, you expect a little bit of contact or jostling, and that's what we saw. They came into turn 14, that 180 hairpin, and Musgrave went defensive, and Bailiff did what I think most people would do in that situation, gave him a little nudge, center punch right in the rear bumper under the braking zone, pushed Musgrave a little bit wide enough for Bailiff to kind of slide to the inside as they made their exit, which set him up for the kink heading to the finish line. And Bailiff was able to score his first SCUSA Pro Tour victory with the win over Musgrave.
Yeah, obviously a lot of chatter about it afterwards, right? Billy wasn't happy at all. He came across the line and was, waving the finger a little bit, saying no, that kind of thing. Bailiff, of course, celebrating. I think they talked quite a bit about it later. I saw some shots of them chatting, after the race itself. But listen, it's, again, a classic bump and run, right? It's in the pro category, David, you'd have had some talks about it. You kind of want to let the drivers handle stuff themselves. It wasn't egregious. It's not like Bailiff absolutely drilled him and knocked him, way off the racetrack. It was just an easy little bump and run, defensive on the inside. I'm sure Billy expected something to come a little bit, but it was enough that Bailiff was able to get around him and beat him to turn number 15, the final right-hander, and then, of course, slide through to get the race win. As I was thinking about it, I was thinking back to other events where you've seen bump and runs like that, where guys have made the moves on the last lap. How many times has the Supernats been that long straightaway into the fast left-hander to the line? Danny Curl getting into the back of Jack Crawford the one year in that corner, right in the back corner, and it was actually Clayman DeMello that was able to do the over-under, beat them both. So I think, in my opinion, I don't know if we're going to throw opinions out here or not, but in my opinion, just a classic bump and run to a certain extent, and I expect that Billy will pay him back sooner or later in the season. I don't think it was egregious myself.
No, it wasn't egregious. It was a good shunt. Let's say that, because as you look at it, Billy's head snaps a little bit backwards. Yep. So, but again, it wasn't on the side. It wasn't a corner clip. It wasn't any of that. It was a solid, hey, I'm going to move you just enough to get into the inside. And that's what it was. And, that's the hard part. And somewhat, it's kind of a reality check. It was like, hey, this is part of racing. We've seen this. The most classic ever is the Dale Earnhardt into Terry Labonte at Bristol. Yep. That is probably the most classic bump and run we've ever seen that I can recall. Even, I think I was 20 something at the time, but, it was that's kind of how racing sometimes has to be. And my feeling is if you do run that defensive line, again, this wasn't in the racing line, this was in the defensive line, the dirty line, where you're not supposed to be, where you're essentially trying to hide the apex from everybody else. This corner, there's an outside run, not going to happen. I don't see it. Maybe in the single speed stuff, I don't know, depending on how you slow up. But I think for pro shifter, this is what we need to see. This is, again, it wasn't egregious. It was a nice center punch, move them a little bit out of the way, come through on the inside, and I take over the position.
And David, think about the fact that when we didn't watch the race, but we all saw, I think, probably the highlights. If you wanted egregious, it was at Martinsville on the weekend in the Xfinity race, right?
Yeah, I didn't see any of that. No,
well, the guy that won came from so far back in the back straightaway. No, but he didn't even win. He actually just took the guy out. Came from so far back and just drilled him in the left rear, put him up the racetrack. They both went up the racetrack, and another driver was able to go over/under for the victory. So, again, in stark contrast to this really zero talent, kind of just dive it in and just drill the guy in the left rear. This was a cover off the bottom. Musgrave making the move to the inside, covering the and again, like I said, it's just a center punch tap. He didn't drill him. And again, like I said, let's just go down to the really bottom line. These are the pro drivers, right? They're adults. They're going to handle it amongst themselves. They're going to talk about it. They're going to come back. Musgrave's probably got a check mark on his steering wheel. I owe Bailiff one, and I'm going to use it later on when I need to. You know what I mean? And we saw a lot of contact like that last year. You think about some of the battles between Morgado and AJ Myers at the winter series, right? That was going for the gap, and that wasn't there. But this was a lot cleaner.
Yeah, I was going to say that contact, the Summer Nationals contact with Morgado into Myers, and then at the Winter Series earlier this year, that's side by side, or as you said, diving for a gap that quite isn't there. This wasn't diving for a gap and side swiping or punching the side pod of Musgrave. This was a little bit of a nudge. Again, when I say nudge, it did move him. And to be honest, let's say this, if it was a less than experienced driver leading the race, he might have went off into the grass. But I think Musgrave's able to handle himself a little bit better because he is a pro driver. He's a 5-time Super Nationals winner. He knew it was coming. And that's the kind of the thing. Like, he might not say it, but he knew it. He knew it was coming. And, if it was anybody else, I don't know if Musgrave would do the same thing. I think he possibly would have tried it, but who knows? Again, you don't know until you're in that position. And Bailiff certainly wanted that first victory and got it.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
It's probably, as he said in the interview, it's not exactly the way he wanted to get it, but it you got to go for it.
Exactly that. All right, there you go, folks. That's our wrap up on the Pro Shifter main event. Gavin Bailiff scored a big victory.
Yeah, Morgado in the third spot on the podium. Jay Irwin in fourth. So 3 Burrell Arts in the top 4. And then Charlie Sainz, again, amazing weekend for him to wrap it up in 5th spot. He was right there battling for that third spot. Yeah, Morgado was making his cart as wide as he possibly could to keep back Irwin and Sainz. And again, a little, you don't want teammate on teammate crime happening. And so, Morgado got the position. But David, certainly wasn't the quickest driver on the racetrack.
Yeah, let's say those guys were on top of each other. Like Bailiff and Musgrave were gone. Morgado, Irwin, and Sainz were on each other for 25 laps. That's the other thing. It was a longer race. Sainz was right with them the entire time.
Yep. Yeah, certainly was a great race to watch for third while that battle was happening up front. And then fast lap of the race at 49.903. Wouldn't you figure it out? I mean, it'd be Danny Formal wrapping up the weekend with fast lap.
I know. Where did he end up on the track? Do you have results?
12th spot.
Oh, he was not happy with that for sure.
No.
All right, let's go into Pro X30, brought to you by Kart CRG USA. Fantastic racing for sure against 2 of the absolute best. Here's the headline: Norberg and Garrison split in dominating weekend.
Yeah, it was certainly these 2 drivers all weekend long at the front of the field. Norberg kicking it off with fast time and qualifying at 52.585 to lead the way. But Garrison came back with a good pre-final, getting Norberg for the race win ahead of Jesus Vasquez Jr. And then in the main event, it was the top 2 getting away from the rest of the field. And they put on a pretty good battle on Saturday with Norberg winning the chess match on the day to score the victory by just under 0.2 of a second ahead of Garrison. With Vasquez holding on to the third spot. They were well gapped from the rest of the field. It was a good drive for Pro X30 Junior or Pro X30 rookie Ty Fisher, the junior driver graduating up to the senior ranks for TB Kart USA, and Race Lab finishing in the 4th spot. So a great drive by him to finish ahead of the British driver Caden McQueen as the lone energy driver for Energy Corsa Americas on the weekend.
Yeah, just an awesome battle, of course, between Norberg and Garrison. Norberg on that RPG Cosmic, Garrison on the Speed Concepts Racing CS55. It was a masterclass. They just went back and forth on each other, fantastic passes, and it just overall was just tremendous watching those guys, just go back and forth at it. Norberg did come away with the fast lap of the race, but as you said, really good runs for Vasquez. He has not done a lot of Pro X30 racing. He was right there for GFC. Ty Fisher alone in 4th, very impressive. And Caden McQueen came out of a bigger battle in the back. Fisher was out by himself in 4th. The fight for the finals position in the top 5 was much more heavily waged. Let's put it that way. David, we roll into qualifying on Sunday for round number 2, and it was neither Norberg nor Garrison, although Norberg did kind of play a role in it. He got out. Norberg was putting down some really good lap times, but Aiden Ingrata was right behind him, and Ingrata able to use Norberg, I think, a little bit of a draft, a little bit of a rabbit. Aiden Ingrata for SCR coming away with the qualifying pole, 52.289, almost 0.3 quicker than what they laid down on Saturday morning.
Yeah, certainly with the grip level building back up after the rain on Friday, which slowed the track down a little bit during the morning sessions on Saturday. So that was part of it. But yeah, Ingrata breaking up the domination by Norberg and Garrison by picking up fast time and qualifying. But he got shuffled back in the pre-final with Norberg coming away with the race win ahead of Garrison and Donovan Bonilla, the former Supernationals winner, moving up into the 3rd spot. Bonilla thought, look, we were going to see him be a factor in the race, kind of mixing up with Norberg and Garrison in the opening couple of laps, but he eventually got shuffled back as Norberg and Garrison once again were able to pull away from the rest of the field. Again, multiple lead changes, what was probably a little bit of a better battle than what we saw on Saturday as the two went. I think they amped it up just a little bit more, a little bit, not necessarily aggression, but kind of forcefully. Hey, this is my corner, buddy. This is my corner kind of mentality. But Garrison actually was able to get into the lead, and over the last couple of laps, Ingrata closed in late from the 3rd spot. So you had Speed Concepts Racing sandwich with Norberg as the meat, and so Norberg, trying to find a way by Garrison, was also trying to hold back Ingrata over the last couple of laps, with Garrison able to score his first Pro Tour victory, or WinterNationals victory, since 2018 in the S1 division at NOLA. So a big win by Austin Garrison over Norberg and Ingrata.
Yeah, for me, it was Ingrata closing in at the end. I actually wondered whether or not Austin actually tried to back Norberg up into him a little bit, because there's one point coming down the straightaway that Garrison looked over his shoulder. I don't think he was looking at Norberg. I think he was looking to see who was in 3rd, right? Let's see if we can back him up. And that's what happened. With Ingrata closing up as he did, it really put Norberg more on the defensive than he could be in terms of being on the offense. On that final lap. Yeah, he could have made, tried an over-under move coming through 13 and 14. Garrison didn't have to cover that much because Ingrata was right there. Had Norberg opened up the inside, that Ingrata would have came to the inside of turn number 14. So I think Garrison getting a little help there from his teammate Ingrata. Nonetheless, Garrison evens it up, as you had said. Norberg ends up in 2nd, Ingrata 3rd. A better run for Paulie Massimino. He was able to get away from some of the chaos and was able to come home with a strong 4th place finish and another top 5 for Caden McQueen. 2 top 5 runs. This kid's been absolutely impressive, David, since coming over for the Winter Series. I think Xander Clemens on the Car Chaser broadcast mentioned he hasn't been outside the top 6 yet in a main event run. So this is a guy that's got some great consistency right now.
I think so, because if you look at the SCUSA Winter Series, he came out 3rd in the championship. We saw him lead at a couple times in Orlando as well, and battle with Turney and Norberg. So he's been right there. So essentially those 6 SCUSA races, he's been right there in the top 5 for sure.
All right, let's go to another commercial break. When we get back, we'll continue the race report brought to you by Comet Kart Sales. We've got KA100 Senior, KA100 Junior, and X30 Junior on the docket for the next part of the show. All over the karting world, everyone knows OTK is the gold standard for quality and performance. In the United States, OTK USA is the source for all things OTK. 8 brands under the OTK USA banner are winning races and championships across the country in national programs like the Rock Cup USA Florida Winter Tour, the Challenge of the Americas, the SCUSA Pro Tour and Winter Series, the United States Pro Kart Series, and even more programs throughout the country. And OTK products are also front and center on the podium of club and regional races from coast to coast. Tony Kart, Cosmic, Esprit, EOS, and Red Speed have been joined by the Gallard, LN Racing Kart, and CS55 brands. To learn more about a specific product line or to find the OTK USA dealer near you, visit otkusa.com. Specific chassis territories are still available, so kart shops interested in adding a winning component to their product lineups can contact OTK USA directly. OTK, the gold standard of karting. It's a storied brand in karting, and it's got a new home in North America. Energy Course Americas is the official distributor for the Energy Course karting chassis and product line here in the US and Canada. The Energy Course brand was founded in 1997 out of passion and skill. Manufactured in Italy, Energy Course has gained national and international recognition with success in all different categories. Energy Course Americas offers an online store for the entire product line of the Energy Course brand, including complete racing packages, spare parts, race gear, clothing, and more, providing an excellent shopping experience. Race the brand that 9 of the 20 drivers currently in Formula One competed on during their karting careers. Visit energycourse.io to see the latest deals and to learn more about Energy Course Americas. Welcome back to our debrief of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour WinterNationals, starting off the 2025 national program for Superkarts USA. Back in here to the race report presented by Comet Kart Sales. David, let's start with KA100 Senior class presented by Nash Motorsports. Here's the headline. Veterans Hodgson and Ramos take down sold-out field.
Yeah, as we talked about, this was a field of 46 drivers, but they're all chasing one on Saturday, and that was Oliver Hodgson, the veteran driver, the 2013 Road Tax Grand Finals winner, was the driver to beat. But it began with Peyton Phillips, the Texas driver, picking up fast time and qualifying at 54.754. But Hodgson able to take the pre-final win. And that was the winning moment. Even though the race was red flagged early in the main event for the Oliver Calvo flip, where he suffered a banged up elbow, but came back on Sunday to race. Not exactly 100%, but certainly was in a lot of pain after that flip. But even with the restart, Hodgson able to get away. It was just nobody wanted to work together. I think that was kind of the situation. Everybody was battling for second, and Hodgson just took the advantage. But he was also the quickest driver on the racetrack by just under 0.3 of a second in terms of fast lap. So it was lap 18 that Hodgson ran his fastest lap, drove away to an 11-second margin of victory for another Pro Tour victory on his belt.
Let me throw this in there. Here's one of the things about this racetrack. It's speed sports is technical. It's tight. Obviously, there's long straightaways, but there's a lot of flow, but it's also there's a lot of corners where you're at low speed, right? A couple of hairpins, and when drivers start racing each other hard, guys out front can pull away. We saw a number of drivers do that. Hodgson's lead was about, I think, 2.5 seconds at one point, right? We're wondering, Mossman to me looked like one of the fastest drivers trying to work his way. There was a number of drivers that looked like they were going to be potentially the chase guy. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was Overbeck. I think it was actually Overbeck in race number 1. I'm like, this guy, he's the fastest guy on the racetrack. If they just let James get to the front, they may be able to close back up on Hodgson. But then they kept racing. So it was about 2.5 seconds for Hodgson. The minute they really started fighting and realized, hey, we're battling for second, Hodgson was gone. and we were off to the races in terms of a battle for second and third, Dave. The final positions on the podium. It got pretty aggressive there.
Yeah, you're right. He was just a 10th off Hodgson's fast time. So Overbeck was the next quickest driver. He got up to third only, was in the top 5, but a penalty for contact actually took him out of the top 5. So it wasn't a good end result for Overbeck, but he certainly had the pace. Had he been able to get up into the second spot and maybe
he got to second for like a half a lap.
Half a lap, not on the actual timing sheet.
I'm like, here we go. He's got it. He gets the second. They come through 13 to 14. Mossman throws it back down the inside in 14, and the race was over at that point. Hodgson walked away.
Yeah, right? It was Mossman that was the driver taking over the second spot each time he was there. So so that was it. It was kind of a boring race up front, but certainly a battle for second. Ended up being Diego Ramos doing the double duty, both at Pro X30 and KA100 Senior on the Burrell Art PSL karting, taking second place from Frankie Mossman, who wouldn't let it go away, but ended up finishing in the third spot. Alex Machado in the fourth spot on the Sodi kart, and then Cooper Auclair putting 2 comp karts into the top 5.
Now, Machado and Auclair, David, they were 5th and 6th on the racetrack. Peyton Phillips actually finished P4, right? But was underweight. Yeah,
Phillips came in underweight, did the multiple tries, and I think it was at least a pound, if not more.
Wow, that's tough. That is tough. I'll say this. Alex Machado was strong all weekend long. Very impressive run for him on the Sodi kart to come home 4th. As you said, Cooper Auclair rounding out the top 5, putting 2 comp karts in the top 5 alongside Hodgson. Going into Sunday, it was an interesting session for sure. Diego Ramos, David, ended up coming out with the pole.
Yeah, it was not your typical senior qualifying session for KA Senior. All the guys, they gathered in this gaggle of karts. Nobody kind of gave each other space. They were all like racing essentially.
They were racing. Exactly.
And so, I think Ramos kind of played it the best way. It was actually him and Henry Wheeler that were 1-2. So the PSL Karting Burrell Arts were able to take the top 2 spots ahead of Peyton Phillips. So, and it was Oliver Hodgson back in 10th, and he was the driver that was out front, so he didn't have any really kind of drafting help. But I talked to him on Sunday. He thinks there might have been a little bit of a draft help on Saturday to help him put him up even further. So, but it was a 0.3 difference between Ramos and Hodgson in the top 10. So again, just not exactly the qualifying session we'd expect for a lot of veterans that are in this category.
A fast lap at speed sports, you have to go through 13 and 14, right? It's the kink, the left-hand kink to the right-hand hairpin. We talk a lot about it already today, that right-hand hairpin. Well, you have to be able to get through that hairpin super clean because that starts a lap, right? It finishes the lap, it starts a lap. Well, in this session, there were guys dive bombing each other in this hairpin. So not only were they giving up the lap they were on, they were giving up the next lap because they were having to put so much wheel in it and slow it up to get around the corner. I wasn't understanding what was happening during these qualifying runs. I'm like, listen, you're giving up 2 laps here. And it's only 5 minutes. Guys were getting 5 laps in this category. That was it. And it was an odd session to be all told, but as you said, Diego Ramos, at least one driver was able to figure it out with a 54.575.
Yeah, and then the pre-final, Ramos ended up finishing second behind Peyton Phillips, but a 3-second penalty for scrubbing tires dropped him down to 7th, while Oliver Hodgson moved up into 6th. So we're like, okay, we got a couple fast guys starting 6th and 7th. And so we ended up getting a pretty good battle throughout the main event. So not what we saw on Saturday. So it was kind of the opposite. Multiple drivers in the mix, but it was Ramos that was the driver to beat. He eventually got up into the lead by the halfway mark, and that was it. He kind of maintained everybody behind him and was able to drive to his first Pro Tour victory at the WinterNationals since 2021, where he won in X30 at NOLA.
Wow. Frankie Mossman, a couple of podium finishes on the weekend. Excuse me. 3rd on Saturday, 2nd on Sunday. Donovan Binney ends up in the 3rd position. James Overbeck, who, as I said, was one of the drivers trying to work his way onto the podium on Saturday, ends up 4th on Sunday. And again, Oliver Hodgson rounding out the top 5. So that'll be an interesting run in terms of the points. Hodgson, of course, with a couple of top 5s on the weekend. Same goes with Mossman. Same goes with Ramos. It is going to be a very tight group, David, heading to the Spring Nats at MCC.
Yeah, the home of James Overback. So where he picked up a couple wins last year as well. So you got to expect that category in the tight confines of MCC is going to be fun.
Let's go to KA100 Junior, presented by TKG Barrel Art USA. Here's the headline. Vanchev adds to win list as Medeiros claims first with redemption.
Yes, this category was certainly interesting with 45 drivers on the racetrack. Tristan Murphy picking up fast time and qualifying at 56.127, while it was Nathan Dupuis picking up the win in the pre-final over junior rookie Nico Orbezo and Max Weiland in the third spot. Excuse me. The main event, however, was a little bit of a disaster. Lap 8, we saw a red flag come out for an incident involving Felipe Benito. Unfortunately, the young driver suffered 2 broken femurs, a nasty wreck where he got trapped underneath the cart as it was flipping. Did not look good. Thankfully, he was alert, awake, but certainly not right in the legs situation. They brought the ambulance in and transported him. He had surgery on Sunday at the Texas Children's Hospital in order to repair those broken femurs. So we do send our best to Philippe. I tell you, I was there, Rob. I don't know if he was kind of in shock or what, because the kid handled it like a champ. Wow. He knew something was wrong. We kept him as calm as possible, but he was pretty calm for what had just happened to him.
Yeah. Again, shout out to Felipe on that one for sure. Hopefully, that's not one that you bounce back from super quickly, right? It's going to be a long recovery for Felipe. And again, as you said, David, everybody here at EKN sends their very best to Felipe. Here's the one thing. Again, that was lap 8. Crazy thing was we go back, we restart after a lengthy delay, and we have another wreck in the same corner, another red flag after that one as well.
Yeah, fortunately, this one wasn't a serious injury. The kid had a little bit of a leg pain, but was able to walk away and be able to, I think he continued on racing the rest of the weekend. But unfortunately, Superkarts USA looked at the clock. The karts were on track for over an hour. And that's something that they're going to look at reviewing in terms of the red flag procedures and race procedures. But they just realized this class has been on track for over an hour. We need to call it. There's just no way we can allow them to keep racing. And so they called it after 8 laps. Yep. And that is when Cole Medeiros was the provisional winner. Unfortunately for him, a tech infraction in the tech inspection, I believe it was carburetor related, took away the victory that moved the SCUSA Winter Series champion Alexander Vanchev to the top spot of the podium alongside Max Weiland and Tristan Murphy.
Yeah, Weiland ends up in the second spot. Murphy in third. Nico Kwiatkowski, a good run in fourth. And Nicholas Orbezo was in the middle of the discussion all weekend long for the top 5. Coming back on Sunday, press the reset button and hopefully have a cleaner day. Nathan Dupuis for Nash Motorsports, David, fastest driver in qualifying, 55.649.
Yeah, so he and Tristan Murphy kind of swapped. One was quickest in qualifying, the other won the pre-final. So very similar to what we saw on Saturday, with Murphy taking the win in the pre-final over Dupuis and Vanchev in the third spot. The main event saw 4 drivers battling pretty good. It wasn't Murphy, it wasn't Dupuis, it was others. Cole Medeiros moved himself up into the mix. Max Weiland moved back in the spot. Jose Alfine for RPG and Cosmic was in there, and then Lorenco Varela on the Burrell Art was in the mix. So a lot of shuffling between those 4 drivers, able to get away from the field. Medeiros took over the lead on lap 13, and that was the winning move as he went on to score the victory by 2.3 seconds.
Yeah, indeed. Weiland again, another second spot there. Back-to-back runner-ups for Max Weiland on the Magic Cart. Jose Alejandro Halfin ended up in the third position. Lorenco Varela in fourth, and Nathan Dupuis rounding out the top 5. Now, you're going to hear a couple of same names here when we roll into X30 Junior, presented by Rawlson Performance Group. I think, David, you had mentioned in the outlap 15 drivers doing double duty in the 2 junior categories. Here is the headline: Vanchez doubles up to continue momentum.
The SCUSA Winter Series champion certainly did that, but it was Sarah Bradley, one of the veterans of the category, picking up fast time and qualifying at 53.900. But Alexander Vanchev came away with the win in the pre-final over Sarah, with Nathan Dupuis in the 3rd spot. This main event was something to talk about, let's just say. Alexander Vanchev got out front into the lead. And Nathan Dupuis, about lap 3, went defensive, full defensive around the racetrack, bunching up the rest of the 45 carts in the group. Vanchev, it was funny because I'd said this in the interview with him on Saturday. He's like, it sounded like he was like letting off early and like pedaling the throttle here and there. And essentially that's kind of what he was doing. Because he had such a massive lead over the field. He told me he was cooling off the tires to try and go and set a fast lap of the race. And that's what he did because he had so much room to be able to do that as he saw the chaos going on behind him. Nathan Dupuis was the driver defending everywhere around the racetrack. And I think it was lap 17 that finally broke up when contact kind of mixed everything up.
Let me throw. So Vanchev ends up winning by 19.4 seconds. He is long gone. Again, we talked already about the battling back and forth. We've also talked about the defensive driving. Right? We started it off with Pro Shifter and Billy Musgrave going defensive on the final corner of the racetrack, essentially, and a bump and run. And a lot of guys were chatting with me when we were in the paddock afterwards. On Saturday and on Sunday as well about Nathan Dupuis and like at the start of the race, like you said, David, lap 3 coming onto the back straightaway, he was immediately down to the inside and it just stacked everybody up. And I was waiting for someone to dump him because when you're and not only in that corner, he was running the inside line in so many different places, right? And it's a little bit different with Pro Shifter than it is with X30 Junior because you got the pushback bumper, right? So drivers were kind of worried about pushback a little bit. Hey, I don't want to get penalized. Am I the guy that's got to take one for the team? Because that was just massive defensive driving the entire time. That's what allowed Vanchev to pull away to an almost 20-second lead. I'll let you roll now into lap 17, David, when a lot of driver, I think at least one driver finally kind of got a little bit bored with it. Let's put it that way.
Well, it was a combination of things. I believe it was Murphy who finally got underneath Dupuis in all his defensive driving. And when that happened, it kind of triggered everybody else to kind of go with him. Yeah. And in that move, it was Jackson Gibson making contact with Dupuis, essentially driving over the front end of Dupuis' cart, knocking off the front fairing. So he was flagged off the racetrack. It kind of ruined Gibson's race as well too. So again, it was a lot of chaos in that moment. And then for the final 2 laps with a lot of drivers battling for position, it ended up being Eric Doan in the Nash entry that came across the line in second, and Travis Pettit in the TB Kart USA entry in third. But both of them received pushback bumpers. How would you imagine that? And somebody's driving defensively, you're going to get pushback bumpers. So they fell to 6th and 8th respectively. That moved Luca Popescu, making his RPG debut, into the 2nd spot ahead of Tristan Murphy, who made that move at the end of the long straightaway. Junior rookie Ashton Woon up to the 4th spot, with Sarah Bradley ending up in 5th.
Yeah, it was a wild one for sure, and it would the interesting thing is things were like almost even more interesting. We rolled into Sunday. Yukon Yao for Rawlson Performance Group came out of the gate as the fastest driver. We didn't talk much about him on Saturday, but on Sunday, a 53.558 puts him in on the pole position for the pre-final. And we talked quite a bit about him throughout the race as well.
Well, I mean, we couldn't talk about him on Saturday because there was only one driver to really talk about. That's with Vanchev out in front and nobody else getting allowed to go have fun. So, I mean, he was up to 6th. So in all that chaos, got up into 4th in the closing laps, ended up crossing the line in 6th, but suffered a couple penalties. So had the speed, certainly was there But yeah, it was a shocker to kind of put himself on the pole position in qualifying, and then drove away to the win in the pre-final. Unfortunately, a spark plug issue in tech removed him from the top spot in the pre-final, dropping him all the way to the tail of the field for the grid in the main event, moving Jackson Porter to the pole position with Leonardo Saravalli in the outside of the front row. But in the main event, it ended up being Alexander Vanchev. He was able to put himself up to the lead from the third grid spot by lap 3. And from there, essentially, he and Ashton Woon was able to pull away. Woon kept the pressure on, kept Vanchev kind of being honest, a couple defensive moves for Vanchev late in the race. But Woon didn't really make anything aggressive, just kind of not really enjoyed, but was looking for a moment to make a move, and nothing really did happen. So it was Vanchev and Woon crossing the line 1-2, with Vanchev going back to back on the weekend.
I'll say for a young kid like Ashton Woon, it was a very impressive drive, right? He showed patience. He showed poise. He was waiting for his opportunity. It didn't come. But I think for a young kid like that, coming out of obviously probably the most dominant driver in the mini category last year, the top guy there making the move up into the junior class, he was right in the middle of the fight and showed that he's going to win some races here, very likely this year. And of course, he's going to be a dominant factor in the junior ranks for the next couple of years. So I was really impressed with him there for sure, David.
Yeah, and only his second weekend racing in the X30 category.
Yeah, exactly that. Now, the battle for third, though, that was pretty good to watch with Tristan Murphy and Saravalli and Dupuis and a bunch of drivers up in that fight.
Yeah, it was a good race. Murphy ended up getting that spot ahead of Saravalli and Dupuis, but it was Yao coming all the way up from 46 on the grid to finish 6th. So just an amazing drive by the driver under the Ralston Performance Group 10. Actually crossed the line in 8th, but moved up to 6th after penalties were handed out.
David, I think you're probably looking at the results here now. Where was Yao after lap number 1? I want to say he went from like 46 to 20 something on the opening lap.
32nd.
Okay, so how about the next lap? He came up you
got to remember it's a lap and a half, because
that's
again,
true. That's true.
You have to cross I'm pretty sure that's how they do it, but again, I wasn't in scoring. I didn't see how they do it, but they crossed the line, and then so in that lap and a half, he got up to 32nd, and then was into 15th by lap 7.
Impressive, yeah. Fantastic driver for qualifying on the pole. Another break, folks. When we get back, we'll continue with the race report brought to you by Comet Kart Sales. We'll do Master Shifter, Mini Swift, and Micro. We'll cap off the race report after this break. Winning takes top quality equipment, flawless preparation, experienced coaching, and passion. And at Team GFC, we live our passion. Developed by American karting champion Gary Carlton, the GFC chassis has become one of the newest brands to reach the top of the podium in North America. GFC has garnered victories and championships at all levels of the sport since its debut at the end of 2018. Shifter car drivers are at the front of the field in the GT14 frame, with the SS31 a consistent contender in tag and 100cc competition. Team GFC has arrive and drive packages available for all categories, including the mini and micro classes utilizing the GFC RR5 cadet chassis. These young pilots have the opportunity to be part of the Team GFC Young Driver Development Program. Learn from one of the best American karters with 28 years racing at the highest levels in the sport, offering personalized training on and off the track. Follow GFC Karting on Facebook and Instagram, or click over to gfckarting.com to learn more about joining Team GFC. GFC, live your passion. Let decades of experience and success lead you to the top of the podium. Join Brandon Jarsacrack Racing as your race team at the sport's major events in the United States. Brandon Jarsacrack is a 4-time United States Pro Kart Series champion, along with a multi-time Superkarts USA Pro Tour and WKA Manufacturers Cup Series race winner. Jarsekrak is ranked among one of the best from his generation to get behind the wheel of a racing cart. BJR provides full race team service and support at all USPKS, SCUSA, and Stars Championship Series events, along with trackside programs at the Trackhouse Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina. Partnering with Mike Doty Racing, Brandon's team of driver coaches and mechanics are passionate for the sport, providing decades of experience both on the track and working with many of today's karting standouts and current motorsport stars. Brandon Jarsekrak Racing offers a full range of services, including kart preparation, driver coaching, and race event support for both 2-cycle and 4-cycle competitors. BJR is an official LN Racing Kart team with OTK USA and is an official offset sport race team. Contact them today to develop a program based around your needs. Head to BrandonJarsekrak.com to learn more. Let's wrap up the race report segment of our EKN Debrief right now, brought to you by Comet Kart Sales. We'll jump into Master Shifter, presented by Rocket Racing Company. Here's the headline. Presti and Hargrove each take first career wins.
Yeah, the Master Shifter category with just 12 drivers was still good to watch all weekend long, with a lot of different storylines going through it. It was Scott Presti, the Croc promotion driver out of Florida, who raced over in Europe all throughout 2024, picking up fast time, a 50.700 in qualifying, and was able to win the pre-final. But that was not before Victor Jimenez was kind of right there battling. But a mechanical issue hampered Jimenez, so it dropped him all the way down to the 12th spot to start the main event, with Presti on the pole after picking up the win over Scott Hargrove and Larry Pegram. But the story was watching Jimenez come up through the field in the main event. Again, after that mechanical issue in the pre-final, he was able to drive his way all the way up through the field, got into the second spot by lap 5. And again, a couple laps less on his tires. That certainly helps when you're talking about shifter karts. Yeah. But got into the second spot and was able to run down Presti, because Presti had a pretty good lead. I want to say 2 seconds, Rob, at least.
It's Presti, not Priesty. I want to make sure
Sorry.
I think it's Presti, because if we're going to give the guy props, I want to make sure we say his name right during the show. Presti.
So I think the lead was at least about 2 seconds, maybe a little bit more when Jimenez got into the second spot.
Yeah.
Good amount of cushion.
Yep.
Jimenez just was able to run him down, took over the lead on lap 16, and that was it. Unfortunately for Jimenez, exhaust issue in tech inspection regarding, I believe, the timing on the engine, the exhaust port timing was the culprit. So they removed the victory from him and moved, say it again, Presti to the top spot for his first ever SCUSA Pro Tour victory. And
the cool thing, too, is Scott's got his own team now. It's Presti Racing. So they've got their own Croc Promotion dealership and team. So able to bring Croc Promotions a win. He gets the victory as well. And again, Scott Hargrove, who is there with Catalyst Driver Development, coming home in the second spot. I talked to Scott on Friday, and essentially getting back behind the wheel of a shifter, long-term thinking about doing pro shifter at the Supernats. It's like, no, you know what? I'm going to run. He's 30 years old. He goes, I'm going to run Masters. I'm going to run here to get myself back into shape, and get myself where I need to be. So he ends up bringing the Ital kart up into the second spot. Luis Gauthier on the Beryl Art. Man, he was a factor in it. He was able to work his way by a number of drivers, ends up getting himself up to what was fourth, but ended up being third after the DQ for Jimenez.
Yeah, that moved Larry Pegram into the fourth spot, and then Jeff Mills under the Ron White Racing CRG in the fifth spot.
Very similar qualifying times in terms of top times on Sundays. Hargrove ends up with the fastest time at 50.771, 700ths of a second slower than Presti did on Saturday. Hargrove, though, seemed like he was pretty much in control, David, on the day. Won the pre-final as well.
Yeah, just had a little bit of more pace than what he had on Saturday, even though the qualifying time was very similar. But I think race pace wise, he had just a little bit more than what Presti had. So, it was a good, they were kind of close together there early, but it was Hargrove that showed the way for. I was just double checking. I think it was a wire to wire victory for
I think it
Hargrove.
was. Yeah, it was. I believe.
Oh, my internet must be the kids are on it again. It's literally the spinning wheel. Oh, I hate this. Yeah, so it was a wire to wire victory for Hargrove, winning by just under 2 seconds for the victory.
Scott Barnes coming back. Skitchy had a rough day on a Saturday for round number 1. The defending champion was 7th at best. It just did not have the pace. They made a lot of changes to the kart on Saturday for Sunday. He actually DNF'd an issue in the pre-final, but was able to come back. And it started. I think started last in the main 12th. Quickly up into 7th, and then was able to work his way forward and finally got himself up on the podium in 3rd. So a solid recovery for Barnes after a absolutely devastating run on Saturday. Gauthier was in the fight once again, ended up finishing in the 4th spot. He put pressure on Barnes throughout the race. And Luca Bartone, who didn't run the race on Saturday, ends up 5th on Sunday for factory karts all told. It should be interesting to see who we get to come back for the Spring National. I think Hargrove's doing the full season with Catalyst, so this would be a lot of fun to see what we're going to have in terms of the master shifter drivers when we get to Cincinnati.
And I think Bartone was the only 175 out there as well, too.
Ah, there you go. That's good information right there, too.
So you know the difference in sound, believe me, when you're out there.
You do. Mini Swift up next, presented by Speed Concepts Racing. Here's the headline. Francisco and De Janeiro split weekend.
Yeah, they were essentially the two drivers, like we saw with Norberg and Garrison, the two drivers to lead the way in Mini Swift. But it was Maxwell Macha picking up fast time and qualifying at 58.630 until De Janeiro was able to drive his way up to the front in the pre-final to win over Jaden Francisco and Santiago Orly only in the 3rd spot. In the main event, however, it was De Janeiro leading a wire-to-wire victory with Jaden Francisco right there on his bumper for much of the race. To me, I didn't really see any issues. I thought it was a normal race between the two drivers. Officials, however, saw it differently, handing De Janeiro a blocking penalty, which took away the victory, dropping him down to the 2nd spot and moving Jaden Francisco up to the top of the podium for his first Mini Swift Pro Tour victory for Nitro Kart.
I saw the replay of it, and I don't know how I struggled calling it a block as well. I believe they were coming up the straightaway, right, from 5 up to turn number 6. De Janeiro immediately came out of 5 and immediately went down to the bottom of the racetrack, and Francisco came with them. Then Francisco moved all the way over, and they were essentially side by side, right? He went all the way to the left. They were essentially side by side. De Janeiro came back to the left to essentially be side by side with him, and then turned into the corner. I don't see it being a blocking penalty. Scusa did. Obviously, they're setting their precedent there. So, indeed, Janeiro losing that win. He goes back to 2nd with Francisco getting the victory. Macha, who was on qualified P1, ended up in 3rd. Alex Chandler in 4th. And Aston Wyatt rounding out the top 5, the local driver on the podium on the Nitro Kart. David, your thoughts on that blocking penalty?
Well, do we preface and say that this was after X30 Junior?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the hard thing with being an official, because you're kind of officiating off race by race, and what you just saw, you're kind of frustrated, and then you move into this category and you're like, that was just, I can't let that happen, even though I let this happen in this category. To me, I thought he moved over and they were side by side.
Yeah.
I don't think he impeded, because I think when you talk about blocking, I think you're talking about impeding and stopping somebody's momentum. And I didn't see that in the video. But again, it's very tough to tell when you're looking straight on where exactly everybody is. So,
and here's the other side of it. When you come and make that move, now coming out of the corner 5, if you come right down the inside of the racetrack, that's essentially your move. Now, again, I'm going to play the other side of it. He had to keep that line. And if he kept that line, which he had to, because he made this first move, right? It's whether or not coming out of the corner, holding the wheel to the inside is that one move, right? But coming out of the corner and coming to the inside of the racetrack, had he stayed to the inside of the racetrack, it would have been very likely that Francisco would have been able to do the over-under coming through turn number 6, right?
Yeah, and again, that's why I don't like diving down to the inside right away. I think you carry that momentum out of the exit, and then eventually move to the inside of the racetrack. And if they beat you there, then fine, let them hold the inside line and try and pull the over under and figure it out from there. So again, a lot of learning goes in this, not only for the drivers themselves, but officiating as well too, because again, it's very tough to sometimes call that if you say you go from one position to the other in terms of straight line, is it really blocking or not? So that it's tough to call.
They'll definitely be able to use that one. Regardless, they all come back and do it again on Sunday, and De Janeiro came into the gate with the qualifying, faster qualifying time, 59.133, fastest of the group. Not quite as quick as Macha on Saturday. Francisco Janeiro, Dave fired it up again in the pre-final. Francisco gets the pre-final win to start on the pole. De Janeiro on the outside. Right in there as well was Win Godshock. But again, main event time, things got exciting with 4 drivers in the lead battle.
Yeah, it wasn't just 2 drivers battling this time. It was 4. A good little battle between the 4 drivers. De Janeiro actually got shuffled back a little bit. Francisco led early. De Janeiro took over the victory, and then it was Francisco that got shuffled with I think it was a side-by-side contact with Godshock. So this allowed De Janeiro to kind of lead the way with fellow Paralyn driver Ashton Pavin right there. But Pavin went for it. That was a great little battle between the 2 Paralyn drivers as they were battling all the way to the checkered flag, with De Janeiro taking the victory by 97 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, David, I'm not sure. It might be Asher Pavan. I'm not quite sure
Pavan,
about that.
Yes.
That just sounds cooler
there
than
you
Pavin.
Go. You say it better than I do.
Listen. Remember, I went through this with Spencer Piggott. I called him Spencer Peugeot the first time I saw him race karting, and his dad told me
he's very French.
Yeah, it's Piggott. Barry Piggott. No, Rob, it's Piggott. So indeed. So Asher Pavan, let's say that. He was super impressive, though. Let's put it that way. Asher was right in the middle of the fight on that Paralyn. Super impressive. Ends up coming home in second. Jaden Francisco ends up in third spot. Officially, David, I'll let you kind of fill things in terms of penalties. Francesco ends up in third. Royce Vega in fourth, and Cameron Johnson rounds out the top 5.
Yeah, Godshock coming across the line in third, but got 2 different penalties, so dropped him from third spot to the 6th spot, moving Francisco up to third. As you said, Vega in fourth on his Kart Republic. So he moved from Bennett on Saturday to Kart Republic on Sunday.
He moved teams.
Found the speed. Yeah.
In the middle of a weekend.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. He's been racing the Kart Republic over in, I believe he's racing the Kart Republic in Europe. So it was kind of it wasn't exactly happy with where they were with the Bennett pace, and went over to the Kart Republic side of things. So
interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up the race report with Micro Swift, presented by Velocity Racing by Sony USA. Here's the headline: Lockhart and Westbrook earned career firsts.
Yeah, it was those 2 drivers battling for it on Saturday, with Westbrook taking fast time and qualifying a 1:01:20 and coming away with the pre-final win as well. So almost had a sweep going, but it was Lennox Lockhart that was the driver on the move, started back in the 21st position and got into the lead by lap 15. So he had a rocket with him, and he was able to beat out Westbrook to the line to score his first Pro Tour victory.
Yeah, fantastic run for Lennox Lockhart. No doubt about that. A big run for Katowski as well, David, for TKG Burrow. Katowski had a great run.
Yeah, Jack up into the 3rd spot, so got his first Pro Tour podium in the Micro Swift division ahead of Brody Stoffel on the Kart Republic, and then Zev Godshock on the Bennett in the 5th position.
Yeah, great racing all told. A fantastic drive for Lockhart to work his way forward, as you said, David, from 21st up for the big race win. Come back on Sunday, and Zev Godshock, David, was kind of the driver out of the gate, wasn't he? Qualified on pole and won the pre-final as well.
Yeah, just a little bit of a faster time than Westbrook on Saturday with a 1:093, and was able to win the pre-final just like Westbrook did. So Team Bennett certainly had the micro karts moving. It was essentially those 2 drivers that were kind of the lead group in a 4-driver battle for the victory. But it ended up being Dutch Westbrook beating out Zev Godshock for the victory by just 43 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, it was essentially it was Bennett's versus Kart Republics up front, right? Because Brody Stoffel and Hudson Howard were right in it as well. Westbrook comes away with the win. Godshock second, Stoffel in third, Howard fourth, and Marcelo Flores, another Kart Republic, rounding out the top 5. A great run for Flores, David. Started deep in the field, 29th up to 5th in an 18-lap main event.
Yeah, a little bit of contact dropped him off the racetrack in the pre-final, so was able to capitalize with good speed to get up into the top 5.
All right, folks, we are going to wrap things up after this break. It'll be the final segment here on this edition of the Debrief. Check out any major national karting event, and what's the common thread? Speed Concepts Racing. Up front, in every class, every weekend. The Speed family has been at the forefront of American karting for over 25 years, and Speed Concepts Racing is the sole dedication of Father Mike Speed and his multi-time championship-winning son Alex Speed. This program is all about passion for the sport and a dedication to winning. They know how to get it done. If you're a senior driver ready to put yourself amongst the best in the country, Speed Concepts Racing is the program for you. We can win the big races. You just need to be in the seat. The Speeds program has delivered time over time in the junior classes as well, helping to elevate a long list of young drivers from mid-pack to potential race winners. Speed Concepts Racing has the perfect equation of coaching, driver development, and technical knowledge to elevate your program. Arrive and drive opportunities are available for the remainder of the 2023 season, and we're locking in seats for 2024 as well. If you're ready to take your career to the next level, contact Speed Concepts Racing through email at speedconceptsracing@gmail.com. Wins at the sport's biggest races, as well as championships across all levels of karting, pack the resume for NitroKart. The NitroKart brand has made its statement as the best, fastest, and most reliable cadet chassis on the North American karting market. If you want to win in cadet, both in 2-cycle and 4-cycle competition, get a NitroKart and join the team. Team NitroKart will be at all major events, trackside with Ryan Perry Motorsport, the official race team. Owner Ryan Perry and his RPM operation carries the full selection of NitroKart chassis and parts, while also providing the same driver development focus as NitroKart owner Nick Tucker. You can also join the Team NitroKart race team at all major 4-cycle races this season. Led by longtime NitroKart tuner Cody Johnson, Team NitroKart will be at all the major Cup Karts North America events with arrive and drive opportunities available for all ages. Nitro Motorsports is a true karts-to-karts driver development program that is already gaining success after launching in 2022. Victories and championships in the Trans Am Series has highlighted the team's start, along with the success in the new GR Cup by Toyota. Current and former karters can take advantage of this unique ladder system with NitroKart and Nitro Motorsports. Visit NitroKart online and find them on social media. NitroKart, race one or chase one. Back at it to cap off episode number 147 of the EKN Debrief as we complete our coverage, our EKN trackside coverage of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour WinterNationals, the opening round of the Pro Tour here for 2025. Rob Howden alongside David Cole. David, let's have a look at the Constructors' Championship. It's a long list. 10 different brands winning the 15 races.
Yeah, amazing run. Cosmic actually picking up 5 of those, 4 with RPG and 1 with Racing Edge Motorsports. Burrell Art picking up 2 wins, and that was by 2 separate teams, PSL Karting and KA, and of course, Gavin Bailiff with Trinity Karting Group in Pro Shifter. And then a number of karts getting 1 win on the weekend. We have the CS55 for OTK, Comp Kart, Croc Promotion, Ital Kart, Nitro Kart, Parolin, Sodi Kart, and Benek all picking up victories at the WinterNationals.
Not often we get that kind of a spread. That's pretty good. A lot of different drivers.
It's moving that way. Certainly all the different brands and different race teams on different makes certainly helps out.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap things up. Then we'll go into the EKN Trackside Live race calendar to cap it all off. David, let's wrap things up. Multiple red flags on the weekend. It's one of the things as an announcer, I always want to get to the end of a weekend and then drop that in there. Hey, we just wrapped up the weekend, and folks, guess what? No red flags. Again, Pro Tour racing, people are getting a little aggressive. Some guys can make some moves. The tight nature of speed sports to a certain extent. Multiple
larger
red flags.
Fields.
Yeah, and packed fields, right? Because the red flags weren't happening from guys in the top 10. It was further outside. You mentioned already Filippo Benito with the 2 broken legs. We're wishing him the best. And I'm sure he's probably still at Texas Children's Hospital right now. I'm not sure if they transported him home yet, but again, we wish him the absolute best. But yeah, a lot of red flags, and it's what you never want to see.
No, it's not. Yeah, and unfortunately, when you do have a record turnout, that's what you're going to see, guys going for every little bit of inch, because again, we're talking about fields that are so competitive, and very little gap between first and 30th. So you get a little bit of that. And like you said, it's kind of the nature of the racetrack as well, too. There's a lot of back and forth. So you have there's a lot, you said it, Rob, in the outlap, there's multiple places to pass in this place. But unfortunately you do have certain situations that do occur. The Benito thing, there was a cart that was sitting still dead on the racetrack, and unfortunately he just didn't see it and hit it, and made contact with it, and that's what sent him over. But yeah, it's just part of racing. We have our good weekends, we have our bad weekends.
Yeah, and here's one of the things about this weekend. Obviously, the double round format makes for long days. You're out there early, 8:00, starting things off with warm up, but you get a couple of reds. Even if it's no reds, it's still very long days where you're looking at 6:30, 7:00 for podiums. They were long days both Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, thankfully Sunday, I don't think we had a red flag, or at least things kind of kept on schedule. I mean, obviously the multiple red flags we had on Saturday kind of delayed things. I think the podiums were just as the sun was setting, or if not, the sun set already. So that made for a little bit of a long day. Again, I'm still a proponent of the one final weekend, so we'll see. Obviously Superkarts USA is sticking with the 2-day or 2-round format. The pro show certainly makes it fun for us. There's one winner in that category. That's one driver we can kind of focus on. But it also makes their days not as long too, because they had 2 heat races on Saturday when they were done, and then just a pre-final and final on Sunday. So I don't know, but
we did talk to a couple of guys today. You asked that question to a couple of drivers. We were at the end of the day, what do you prefer? And a lot of the guys want that double round, only because they get the chance to come back. They had a rough Saturday. You get a chance to come back and save the feeling of the weekend on Sunday.
I don't get it. Like life isn't about do-overs.
You're hilarious. All right, let's cap things off, David. As you said, everything is bigger in Texas. The field, of course, the biggest ever Superkarts USA Pro Tour race. We scroll back. What was it? 305? Do we end up at
305?
305. That is fantastic. And again, coming off a record-setting winter series as well. Superkarts USA on a roll right now. But all told, just a great weekend in terms of racing. We saw some excitement. There was some drama. The juniors, or the rookies moving up categories, were very impressive. They were in the middle of a fight. So I think it's a solid overall start to the Pro Tour season.
And I got to see my first car getting moved by a forklift.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, 100%.
Because we had to be off the rental cart by 7:00. So
let's throw this out there in terms of the facility as well. Speed Sports Racing Park. Shout out to Alan and Jessica Rudolph. They did a tremendous job. They fit everybody in the paddock. That was the first thing people told me, right? Oh, there's no way you can get.
There's room.
You can't get 250 in the paddock. They had 305, and you could have probably shoehorned a couple more trailers in there. Now, granted, they were pushed all the way out to like the guest parking. Every bit was used up. And one of the things, Alan, obviously, in the design of the track, there's the competition track and there's the rental car track. So if you're having a major race, you can still run the rentals. Well, because of the wet, they weren't able to kind of use any of the grass parking, because you would have just got stuck. So they literally had cars parked all around the rental cart track, and that's when the car got picked up by the forklift, because Alan said you can park on the rental track, but every car is off of that by 7:00, so I can roll my rentals at 7:00. Couple people did not do that.
Yeah, it's that. I will say, the concept is great, because again, it keeps everybody off the grass. You have the paved lane that you can follow, so you can easily park, and you don't get all the messed up parking standards of people, because we know that's a mess to begin with. So it's a great, again, all these kids are on the racetrack all day. They don't need, I understand there's still locals who like to come out and do that. But again, you're holding this is a one weekend thing where you just got to try and fit everybody in. But there's room in the paddock. Certainly there's certain spots where, you can kind of condense things a little bit down, because some people had a little bit more space than others. So there's room to probably get to 325, if not a little bit more.
Maybe. Last but not least, I think everything is bigger. It's a great facility. And listen, Dave, you and I and many people in the paddock got a chance to go over to the food zone. So right beside the racetrack, on the other side of the rental track, is this cool zone they built up with a bunch of containers around the outside. Essentially, it's a big box. All the restaurants, it's like a food trucks, but they're not trucks, they're containers.
Right. Yeah.
But there's, I think, 10 different food vendors, restaurants, all the inside. That place was packed. Kids are in there. They're still wearing the racing suits. The place was packed with racing people. Just a really cool addition to that area. Of course, there's a water park in the area as well, as we know, all the stuff that's around the track. But the food zone was kind of an interesting thing at the end. I really enjoyed that. And a lot of people that were enjoying as well, David, because when we were there for dinner on Saturday night, it was packed with people from the race.
Now that I think about it, Rob, we should have done this. We should have done the podiums there.
That would have been cool, actually. Yeah.
Everybody could drive over to their parking lot, so that way you get there. All you need is your suit. Don't bring your helmet because, again, it's against my standards for podium. But, it would have been cool. That
would have been cool.
Yeah, I almost... Just, again, change it up. Let's do something different. Change things up a little bit. So.
All right, let's wrap up this show, folks. It's time to get this one done. EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar, presented by Sodi Racing USA. What brand is known around the world for its innovation and success? It is Superkarts. The Sodi brand returned in full force during the 2023 season thanks to the new exclusive importer, the karting distribution, led by industry veteran Terry Germanovich. The French manufacturer Superkarts is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about the Superkart chassis or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Superkarts, the world leader in the karting industry. So, folks, EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar will let you know where we're going to be over the next month or so. We're actually... at least you're off for a little bit. I've got a USF Pro Championships race coming. But, David, we're in the office. We're going to get some work done here because our next race isn't until April 25th to the 27th when you and I head to Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California for the next rounds of the Challenge of the Americas.
Wine country, here we come. We get to go over the Golden Gate Bridge, get to go to Angelo's, In-N-Out Burger. All the usuals.
One of the best views from any racetrack in the sport.
Definitely up there. It is definitely up there for sure. One of the fun racetracks to go to, competitive racetracks, a lot of passing zones. We've driven on it. I've driven it faster than you have.
I actually raced there, David. You were in a Briggs.
I did not race there, correct. I did shifter karts there with Ron White a long time ago.
We did some testing there. We did. That's right.
So yeah. But yeah, I love that way that racetrack. It's very similar to speed sports where everything's kind of condensed right there. A lot of 180s, but some fast sections in the long straightaway. So you get everything you need is right there at Sonoma Raceway.
Yeah, you're right back at it the next weekend, David, for the next round of the United States Pro Kart Series, the Carolina Grand Prix at Trackhouse Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina. That's the first weekend of May.
The first weekend of May, my anniversary weekend, I will be at Trackhouse Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina. I used to be going to South Bend during the WKA days, but now it's USPKS doing it to me again with the Carolina Grand Prix. So excited to get back to Trackhouse. It's the unofficial home for the USPKS.
Yeah, then as we look far forward from the race calendar here, the Memorial Day weekend. I can't believe we're talking about Memorial Day weekend already, although it's almost 2 months away. May 23rd to the 25th, the Superkarts USA Pro Tour is back at it again. Good to wrap up the race calendar here with the series we're talking about, Superkarts USA Pro Tour Spring Nationals. The 16th edition of the Spring Nationals will this year be at Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati in Batavia, Ohio. That should be a good one. Another track I haven't been able to cross off the list yet. Hopefully I'll get there sooner or later. But David, you'll be there handling EKN trackside coverage for the Spring Nats.
I told you, just roll in on Sunday to at least come and experience the Spring Nationals as a spectator, and not a worker. That'd be interesting. So
actually, I'm flying home on Saturday.
Yeah, I know. You're going to be locked into Indy too long. So
yeah, I gotta watch
Yeah, and again, if you go to MCC Karting on Instagram and I believe on Facebook, you can see the revisions done to the opening corner, giving it more runoff space, the adjusted grid area as well too, due to that. So again, MCC and the Bailiff family and all their partners are putting in all the work to make sure they are ready for the Spring Nationals, which hopefully will be at 300 entries again.
Exactly that. All right, folks, there you go. That wraps up episode 147 of the EKN Debrief. David and I just did a full debrief on the Superkarts USA Pro Tour Winter Nationals that happened last weekend at the Speed Sports Racing Park, March 28th to 30th. Great way to start off the season, the opening couple of rounds for all the categories but the Pro Show. First round of the 3 for the Pro Shifter drivers. Again, the 16th season of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour underway, 305 entries to start it all off. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We do appreciate it. Again, think about our next events down the line. It'll be a while before we have our next outlap, as we talked about in the calendar. That'll be later this month, where we have a preview of the Challenge of the Americas event at Sonoma. But otherwise, that wraps up our coverage from the Superkarts USA Pro Tour Winter Nationals. On behalf of David Cole, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.